Where I'm at today in terms of realizing how you have to be what you want and realizing why most people are not what they want because they are focused in the not being of what they want, right? So this is my biggest thing is like you do need a leap of faith where when you say that you want, even when you say that you want to be something, that sounds good on the surface, but if you do not be it, you won't be it. You will always want to be it. So even in the to bring up the word manifesting, but like even to think about manifesting, it's funny because you think that you are, you don't realize that you're always manifesting. And you might not think that, right? Because you're like, well, no. If I was manifesting, I would have a car, I would have a big house, I would have a bunch of money, I'd have this relationship, that relationship, I'd be happy. But that's exactly the problem. You want it, but that is not being it. So if I was a happy person who had a car and had a house and had this and had all this and had the good feelings and everything I wanted, would I want to be it or would I be it? Of course, that's just a stupid question. Of course I would be it, right? So even though you don't think that you are like manifesting where you are at, you most certainly are. You are just doing it unconsciously. You're actually not aware that you're manifesting something. Even in terms of, I said this to my brother and Micah, and we were having this conversation, and Micah is the one who put us on this path in the first place, and there's been a lot of other people to help. But he said, dwell in the end, you are at the end. And he said, so I'm understanding, like you're saying, like, even though I'm at the start of this journey, I should be at the end. And he's like, yes, because if you say that you are at the start of this journey, you will always be at the start of the journey. You will find yourself in 1 year. And it's weird because I've noticed, I was like, really? Like you'd be that dumb that in 1 year, like you'd repeat yourself, history would repeat itself, consciousness would repeat itself. But it's like, yeah, have you ever had a moment where, for example, like I'm growing a newsletter right now. And the goal of that is obviously to have an impact on people, to help people, but also just to make a ton of money, right? Like that was the goal. And it's funny because I noticed that I talk to the same people 6 months later, and I'm embarrassed to tell them that I am in the same spot. Meaning like if we were at 1,000 subs, we still haven't locked down a way to grow our newsletter. So 6 months later, it's like I feel this resistance. I feel like I don't want to hop on call with them until we're millionaires, right? Like I genuinely have said that before. It's like I don't want to talk to these people only because I feel like I'm still the same person. I want to change and then hop on call with them. But the issue, like, how does that happen? Because for me, for this newsletter, it literally did happen. 6 months passed, and it's not to say that we didn't get anything done, but we still don't have a marketing thing down. And I'm like, it doesn't take 6 months to start Facebook ads. It doesn't take 6 months to test something. It does not. So my point is, if your life isn't drastically changed in 6 months from where you said it was 6 months ago, I have proved that you are currently manifesting the life you're in because you're in it. And to even go against that fact is actually you fighting that you manifested it. So it doesn't have to make sense to you, right? Because you could be like, well, why am I here? If I manifested this, why would I be here? But it's because it is not being done correctly. It is as simple as that. It is because you are thinking that just because you say you want something, you should have it instantaneously. But in reality, there's an actual battle that you go through mentally to get what you want. So if you say, I want the car, I want the house, I want the this, I want the that, and then all you do is want it for 10 seconds, and then you spend the rest of your day realizing that you don't have it or thinking that you don't have it, how would you ever get it? Because you're literally manifesting not having it because you're being the person who doesn't have it and just wants it. So the point is, like Neville Goddard said this, is you have to explode the idea inside of you so much so that there is no more hunger, that when you come out of it, I don't know if it was hunger or thirst. I think he used both words. That there is no thirst. Your thirst is quenched. And if there is thirst for it, you have not done it well enough, right? So even me, like I should close my eyes. I should think through the feelings that I want because I actually feel like I'm so busy writing notes, so busy listening to lectures that I'm not actually taking the time to like plant the seeds that I want. So just realize when you fight this thought of, well, the harvest I'm reaping now can't possibly be mine because I didn't plant these seeds. You did. You just did it unconsciously and you did it a long time ago. And of course, now you are reaping what you sowed. That is how it works. You cannot sow what you didn't reap. So the realizations that I'm having here is that I listened back to a conversation I had with my brother and Micah, and he kept talking about being. Because to follow this train of thought, I guess I could start from the beginning, but it just started with, God is imagination. And that clicked for me because let's just start here, right? If you were God, what could you do? The answer should be anything. If you were God, what couldn't you do? The answer should be nothing, because you're God, so you have no restrictions. And the church and the Bible and all these things, even whether you're with it, you're not with it, they all tell you that God is in you. But what does that mean? Well, hold on. If I go to my internal world, the only thing I technically have is an internal world and an external world, right? So if these are the only things I know that exist, well, I go to my outside, I can't quite just do anything I want. But if I go inside, I can do anything I want. So if they say God is in me, that must be what it means, right? It means, well, I have a place inside of me where I can think, feel, do whatever I want, despite any realm. And I said, what you're always doing is imposing limits, right? You're telling your own imagination that can do anything. I said it's like splitting it into two rooms. It's like you have a room with rules and you have a room with no rules. So the guy who is in the room with rules walks into the room with no rules. And he says, look, guys, I know you have no rules, but over in this room, there are rules. So you need to follow them. It's very important that you follow them. But the number one thing of that room that you have entered is that there are no rules. So it is silly to just impose that. It's silly for a guy in the room of rules to make his way into the no rule room and then say, by the way, you must obey the rules. Well, do you know what room you're in? Because you're in the room where there are no rules. So why is the guy who is in the rule room coming into the no rule room and telling me that, right? So in the same way, it makes literally no sense that you would ever go to your imagination and say, no, do not picture being fulfilled. Do not picture making a ton of money, because we don't have that. No, your outer man may not have that. You might not be experiencing that. But if you actually envision what it would be like to make a ton of money, to feel fulfilled, to get the feeling that you've always wanted, you feel it. You feel the excitement. So do not let God, your imagination, remain in chains, because that is what you're doing. You're putting God in timeout. You are almost chaining him up and saying, hey, since I can't experience it, you most certainly can't. But what you forgot is you are in the realm, as the inner man, of no rules. So if I want to fly around in my imagination, I can. So it's stupid, because even saying something as fun as flying in your imagination, you can do whatever. So why is it that I would tell my own imagination, I'd say, no, you can't fly because I can't? That doesn't make sense. You have a place where you can do it. So why are you telling the one area that can do it to not do it? You are literally dragging down. It is just like dragging somebody else down so they're at the same spot as you. It's you don't want what's best for them because it does not align with you. So even though your inner man can fly around and have a great time or experience whatever feeling he wants, you won't let him have it because it's like an ego thing. Like you have to die to your ego, right? So to keep this moving, and this could be extremely long, and so be it, because I think it will be valuable, is I started to realize that you need to be what you want to be. And I'll explain this a lot better, and I'll actually go in depth because I try to break this down as simple as possible. When I was listening back to my call with my brother and Micah, he kept talking about, actually, this quote is really good. Micah said, creation is finished. So if you're not familiar with this concept, it's that everything that can and could ever happen has happened, and that's why creation is finished. So for example, if you even think about, I wish I pursued, this is an example Edward Art gives in a Reddit post. If, your name's Mark, you're Mark 1, right? There's infinite Marks. And you know that because if you think of a certain version of yourself, a certain Mark, he exists, right? So if I think of a Mark that, pursues music instead of his 9 to 5, he has to exist because I thought of him. So if he didn't exist, how in the name of anything would I have brought it into consciousness? So what happens is you need to be him. You need to become the Mark II that leaves a 9 to 5 and, he pursues music, right? So he says that's the idea of creation is finished, is that like when you think of any reality, you're literally able to think of any reality. So when you think of it, it is already done because you're thinking of it. You wouldn't be allowed to think about it. It would be outside the game's boundaries if you weren't able to think about it, right? But you can. So creation is finished right now. Like everything is thought out because you can think of anything. So creation is finished. And then he said, you are not creating anything. You are participating in creative revelation. So you are not actually making anything. You are revealing the creation in real time. So he says, meaning it exists, but you're selecting the state and you're embodying the state. And by dwelling in the state, you are the cause that then causes the state to be revealed. The state was always there. You can just choose to bring it up, to fish it out from the unconscious and make it conscious. So even when you say anything, if you tell me that right now you have dreams, that you have like I'm not talking about at night, I'm talking about if you have dreams that you want to go for, you are literally fishing them out of the unconscious. Like where did that even come from? You're going to tell me your dream is to do this, is to retire your parents, is to feel this feeling, is to go out and do this thing with your friends. It is to make this much amount of money. It's to feel fulfilled. It's this, it's this, it's this. Where did that even come from? That came from your inner man. You had no part in that. Some inner voice was just like, dude, we need like a car so we can feel fulfilled. We need a big house so we can feel happy. We need love, so we need a relationship. But that's the weird relationship with the internal and external, is that you are now looking for outside circumstances. You are now trying to say, well, yeah, we want love, so let's go find it in a partner. And the only issue with that is you are only going to find it in the partner. So if you lose the partner, you lost the love. But you could have given it to yourself immediately. God can do anything instantaneously. So if I told you right now, go order an Amazon package and you have the choice between instantaneous shipping and 7-year shipping, which one would you pick? And then you might say, well, instantaneous, what is that? Like an extra $60 million to get instantaneous versus 7-year shipping? That would be a lot. No, it's the same price. It's the exact same price. You can just pick if you want instant or 7 years. Of course, everybody's going to pick instant, but nobody does that when it comes to their own mind. Nobody realizes that, oh, wait, I actually don't need some, you get in the relationship to feel the love, but you could have just given yourself the love from the start. You could have just literally just given it to yourself. You could have imagined that scenario because when you think something, God has it, right? So if I go to my imagination, I'm not sitting around waiting, right? So if I say I want love and I go in my mind, is my imaginary man, is my inner man, God, is he sitting around? Do you then see a life play out for 7 years where he waits for love? Of course not. You just imagine yourself in a relationship or just experiencing love, and you just feel what that love would feel like. So, of course, it's silly to go into your mind, the place where you can have anything you want instantly, and make yourself wait. There's no point. You can if you want, but unless you want to, be sitting around thinking about waiting for something that you want, which sounds silly, then don't do it. So what I was realizing was, actually, where do I start here? So when you have a desire, I heard someone say that when you when you have a desire, it is actually a sign that you already have it. And I didn't understand that, and I think today I did. And I'm also trying to think, because I guess I'll be eating in like the next, actually still like probably like 30 to 40 minutes. But this is pretty important, so we're going to keep moving without worrying about any of that. So for starters, this is a quote, I believe, from Neville, but I heard it from Micah. And I said, once I realize what this quote means, I know it will be life-changing, but now I'm starting to understand it. So it says, through the faithful systemic cultivation of the wish fulfilled, desire becomes the promise of its own fulfillment. So you can pause that, you can play it back, you can write it down, you can stare at it, because these things that, I talk about, Edward talks about, Micah talks about, and it's so funny how profound it is that, like, I was talking to my cousin recently, and he was talking about how in the Bible, you could literally just sit and talk about a line in the Bible for like 3 hours. And this is the exact same thing. And I'm not saying that in the sense of I'm saying that in the sense of these things require listening back to. And this goes in any realm. Like when I was even like consuming a ton of Alex Hormozi stuff, I remember I was always looking for new, right? I was always looking for he dropped a new video, he dropped a new sales training, he dropped a new this. And then I realized, wait a minute, if I just listened to the same Hormozi video, but it's the one that had the best point, it was the most important, it's the one I needed to hear every day, and it was super profound, and I could lead down 1,000 avenues, that's the one I should listen to. So I started to realize it's not about novelty, because that's what everybody wants. They feel the rush of, okay, like awesome, there's something new, but you'd be better off being reminded of the things that you really need to be reminded of. So feel free to listen back to that, write it down, whatever. But I'll tell you what I think it means, and it might not be immediate, actually, because I might get into it later. So where do I start with this? So there's... just looking at my notes. I drew some things, I wrote some things out. And I guess I'll just follow this how I wrote it, because it'll be easier. So most people would agree there's a cause and an effect, right? So when you have a desire, that is the scene. That is the scene thing. Like, oh, I want fulfillment. I want that through money so I can show my parents. And again, I'm just speaking through my own experience. Like, I'll be totally honest with you. Like, that's exactly what I'm striving for. I am striving to take my parents out, whether that be, kind of to a restaurant, but also just like on a vacation would be awesome. But like, take them out, be like, we made a ton of money, feel what it feels like to feel fulfilled, to like, again, but I can have that now. Like, I'm letting my inner man experience that, right? To feel the joy of feeling secure, feeling that security of, okay, I actually have enough money where I can drop out of school. I don't have to pursue something I don't want to pursue, and feeling all of the joy of that, right? So that is the cause. The effect is the bearing of the fruit, and that is the unseen. So, for example, if I feel all that security, I feel the fulfillment, I feel all the great things and all the great joy, I will inevitably bear the fruit, meaning like I will get what I want by result of that. I have allowed myself to experience it, therefore I am it, so I will experience it. Like, because you have to, again, I hope this makes sense, because I'm in another state. Like, I've gone in... I'm a week into this path, so it's starting to make sense. But when you bear the fruit, you have to get what you are. You have, like, if you are something, you will inevitably get it, because you're embodying it, right? So, for example, it's not so much that you are pretending, oh, my inner man has it. It's like, no, like, you're not like, that's the problem. When I wrote this down later in this journal entry too, when a kid plays pretend, it's only pretend to the adult. To the kid, it's very real. So it is not about you even telling yourself, oh, I'm pretending I have everything I want. Because the moment you say that, you aren't being it. You are not what you want to be. You are now someone who is pretending that they have what they want. Just like wanting, right? If I say I want $1 million, well, someone who has $1 million doesn't want it. They have it. So how is the world going to give you what you want? How is the world going to say, here's your $1 million? Not to say you're not worthy. It's to say that you get what you are. So if you are not the person who feels that, who has the $1 million, how would you get it? Because you're just the person who wants it. So you're actually manifesting exactly what you don't want. Because in even saying, oh, I want $1 million, you will always want $1 million. You are actively creating this never-ending loop of like, well, why don't I have it? Why don't I have it? It's because you want it. It's because you keep wanting it, you will always want it. But the person who has it doesn't want it, and that's why they have it. It's because they are it. They have $1 million. I hope that makes sense, because it does to me, but maybe not. So I have... If you want something, you have to understand that there is a point in which you technically don't have it in reality. Meaning, even right now, like if I say I want a car, okay, I might have a car in the next 5 years that I really want, my dream car. But you have to understand that there will be a point in time, if I say I want a car, that I don't have it, which is now. So what a lot of people do is they'll immediately jump to the now. And it's not that's the funniest part, is if you say I want a car, you have immediately in this moment brought into being that reality, right? But what you're immediately doing is jumping to right now. And you're going, well, I don't actually have it. That's silly. Because of course you don't have it. You just brought it into consciousness. You just fished it out of the unconscious into the conscious and said you wanted it. And for the first time, you would have actually felt what it felt like. You didn't say, I want the car. You said, you realized that you were the person who had the car, and you felt that, and you knew you were it, right? So this is where most people go wrong. This is where I still am going wrong. And I don't even want to affirm that because I'm like, then I'm making myself the person who is experiencing that. It gets trippy, right? But it's like when you say that you are something, right? I am the person who feels the fulfillment. I take my parents out. I have the money. I have this. I have this. When you say that, and then you immediately get rid of the joy, get rid of all the good emotions that come with it, and then tell yourself that you actually don't have it because you don't see it around you, you are no longer it. And I really hope that sinks in. Because that is where logic, reason, all these other things go wrong, is because you will tell somebody, or I will tell you, that you have the car you want. Just experience the feeling and have it. But the moment mindfulness practice is done, the moment you go through your 10, like you think about it for a minute, it's gone. And in it being gone, you quote unquote realize you don't have it. But in that happening, you genuinely lose it. And this is why in the Bible they say, like, the kingdom of heaven, like if you look back, you will not get into the kingdom of heaven. And it's like you have to understand what that means. Because if the kingdom of heaven, for example, for you right now is the car, you are looking back. You are basically, your inner man is feeling the joy, right? You have it, you're experiencing it in your mind, and you're walking towards the kingdom of heaven. And the kingdom of heaven is that car, it is that oasis that you want. The moment that you don't be it, you say, I don't actually have it because I don't see it right now, I don't see it immediately, you're looking back. You are looking back. You see a car, whatever it is for you, that heaven, you're walking towards it, but then all of a sudden, you look back. And in that moment, you could never get the car. You could never experience the actual real reality of bearing that fruit, of getting that car, because you look back. And you only get what you are. So if I look back and say, wait, I don't have the car, then you absolutely won't have the car. Because you aren't it. You are not being the person who has the car. You are being the person who doesn't have the car. Because you're looking around and saying, wait a minute, I don't have the car. So I hope this clicks, because this will be most people's battle. Most people's battle will be, well, I think about it. I think about it all day. I have daydreams all day. But it doesn't make sense because I don't actually have it. So I want $1 million, but I don't actually have it. And this is why history repeats itself. Consciousness repeats itself, is because you are in the doing of that, literally creating the reality. You are creating the reality where you say, wait a minute, I have the car, I feel it, and you're with me for a minute. For 1 minute, you are saying, oh my gosh, I feel it feels amazing, it feels good, it feels great. You're walking towards that heaven. But then you look back and you say, hold on, I don't have it. And then you will never bear the fruit. You will never bear the fruit, and the fruit being the 3D. You will never actually get the car because you are not being the one who has it. You are being the one who does not have it. So I think I might actually be repeating myself now, but maybe it might be important. So I said, when you doubt, you are not aware of being, you're aware of not being it. That probably could have been said better. I actually didn't even finish my thought there. So you have to realize that, like, that's the trippy part of all this, is like you think, it's so weird to explain to people, like, not that you don't actually need it, but that is what even gets you there in the first place. Because obviously, yes, like we think this world is our entire reality. So it makes sense that you're like, okay, like this is all great woo-woo, hippie, dippy stuff here, but like I don't actually have a car, even though I'm imagining it in my mind. But it's like, well, exactly. You will never get that car. You will never get that car. Because you're being the person who doesn't have it. And you get what you are. What you are being. So I'm going to keep moving because I could talk about this forever. What is it? 153 right now. That's all good. It's all good. So I said, the awareness of being is the start of the desire beginning to head towards its end. So most people can wrap their head around that, even though the way it's phrased might be tricky, is like, it makes perfect sense. The moment you even desire something, you're actually on the journey to the end, which is cool, right? But the problem is, like, you're not actually being in the end. Like I said, most people want something. they immediately from the want realize that I don't, quote unquote, actually have it. And then they are always being the person who wants it. Does that make sense? So even when you say, like right now, if it just pops in your head out of nowhere, man, I would love to take my family to Aruba. That would be so sick. That would be awesome. The moment you even want it, you're already beginning a reality where you get that. But the moment you quote unquote snap back into it and say, well, wait a minute, I'm not there. I'm not really there. I can't have that. I am not, you will always be the person who's always wanting to take their family to Aruba to pay for the trip, but they never do. Hope that makes sense. So the awareness of being is the start of the desire beginning to head towards its end. It makes perfect sense, right? I want to take all of a sudden, I want to take my family on a trip to Aruba. Boom. You've already begun the journey. You're already on the path. But you have to dwell in the end, and that's where it gets trippy. So having the desire is almost the only step in the process. Everything that then happens after is actively causing the desire to manifest, which is it's very trippy to think, because of course you still do things, you still put in work. Like I don't just I want this much money and I receive it. I mean, maybe that's possible, but I'm like, you still do the work, but everything that you do is then an effect of it. You know what I mean? So everything that's happening in my life is an effect. So it's kind of cool in the sense that like it's already written and you actually can't really make any wrong moves. Because if you're really dwelling in that end state and you are it, everything you do will inevitably get you to that, which is crazy to think. I hope this is making sense, because again, like we could have skipped a few chapters in terms of like, I think I got you up to speed. I said the God is imagination thing. Heaven is kind of giving yourself what you want because you could have always experienced it. But again, like this is the battle of awareness is, and I'll get to it later, but awareness is the very thing that allows you to get anything you want, but also stops you. And that is the battle between God and Satan. And I'll talk about that in a minute, maybe in another video. Because actually, you know what? I could break this into separate videos. So maybe I'll go through, actually, yeah, that'll be nice. Because I'm like, wow, it is crazy that I've maybe gotten through 3 lines of this journal entry that I did today, and it's been a 30-minute conversation. So I think what I might do, instead of making a 63-hour-long experience, I will just break it into parts. So with that being said, having the desire is almost the only step in the process. It's technically the most important part, because if I told you, well, what's more important, the end or the beginning? Well, if it doesn't begin, how are you going to get to the end, right? So it just kind of makes sense. It's like, okay, well, something needs to start first before it reaches whatever goal there is. There has to be the goal in the first place. Like if I say I want to make $100,000 a month, if that never popped in my head, I'm never going to make $100,000 a month because I never had a goal to, right? So everything that then happens is actively causing that desire to manifest. You are actively living out the effects of previous causes. So that's what, like myself included, it's like, wow, that makes no sense because I don't want to be in college and I don't want this and I don't want that. But whether you know it or not, like 100% you have caused the entire life that you live. And again, like it's brutal. Like for me, it's absolute. I mean, it's brutal for everybody, right? Like nobody wants, it's crazy to say that nobody wants what they have, but like think about it. Like for example, I'm in college right now. I hate college with everything in me. It goes against everything I stand for in terms of health, in terms of philosophy, in terms of literally everything you could possibly think of. I would rather be doing anything else with my time than school. So for me to sit here and say that I have actively somehow unconsciously caused myself to be here, it actually gives you complete power. So people will fight it, but it's also funny because why are you fighting it? Because the moment you begin to fight it, you are taking control away. You're saying, no, it's my circumstances, it's my parents, it's my this, it's my that. You can say that, but in doing so, you lose all the power. You have literally no ability to then change because you're saying, well, it's not me who did it. So yeah, okay, you're right. But now your parents will always control what you do. You will never have any say. It will always be their opinion over yours, right? So even though it's a hard truth to accept, this is why they say the truth sets you free, is because the moment that you realize, oh, it's me who caused X, it's me who caused Y and Z, you can actually do something about it. But if you're always pointing the finger and saying, no, that person caused X, that person caused Y, that person caused Z, well, okay. I mean, that's great. It feels good that it's not your fault. I bet that feels amazing. But you know what also wouldn't feel amazing? Knowing that you have no ability to change it. So Most people, so I think I brought up this car thing already, but most people struggle because they think if it works in the future, then it works, right? So you will hear this and you will say, well, I got to test it in the future. The issue with doing that is you're sitting around waiting. Okay, now I have to bring up the apple tree analogy. I said waiting to be the apple tree, yet you will never bear the fruit because you're not aware of being it. So how do I take this? So I'll go one more page. And then, so it hurts people's brains to imagine like this, sometimes I just don't know what I write. Because when you tell them they already have what they want, they will feel it for a second. Then they will immediately tell themselves they don't actually have it. So they're not aware of being it. Therefore, they can never bear the fruit. So basically what Micah really put into perspective for me and my brother is that, maybe I'll go back because I have a bunch of good quotes here. Everything follows the law. Meaning, like, if you are aware of being it, you will be it because you are it. Like, it's just that simple. Like, an apple tree is only aware of being an apple tree, right? Like, it can't be a pear tree because it's not aware of being that. So here's the tricky part with consciousness. When humans are conscious, maybe I'll skip to this part. There's so many things I want to hit. The cause is you being the thing, you being the tree is what bears the fruit. An apple tree grows or knows. The apple tree knows because of what it is, it's going to have apples. So you stop worrying about the outcome. You don't worry if you're not seeing any fruit. It's actually when you trust you are the thing. So this is where it gets trippy. So I will cut to maybe my little but that's ahead of the game. That's ahead of what I wanted to do. To have it, you need to desire. You don't need to... Don't mind me, I just write a lot of things and I'm trying to figure out which ones I shouldn't say. So I'll just reference back to this conversation. Basically what's going on here is that consciousness is trippy because you can be whatever you want, but the battle between God and Satan is you being too aware. So awareness is your friend and awareness is your enemy in a sense, right? Because you will become aware of being what you want to be. So I want to be the person who makes six figures. My parents are like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. You're feeling all the good feelings. You want to be that you. And for a moment, you are it. So in that moment, awareness is absolutely your friend. You are aware of being the exact person you want to be, and it feels amazing. But the reason awareness is also your enemy is because then you quote unquote, snap out of it, and your awareness then goes to not being it. So in your mind, you just were it, but now you're looking around and saying, damn it, I'm not actually it. And in doing so, it seems logical, but what you're actually doing is making yourself not it. You are no longer being the version of you that made six figures and told their parents and they're feeling great about it. You're no longer being it because now your awareness is telling you, hold up, if I look around me, I'm not it. So that's the thing is when you want, like, an apple tree bears the fruit inevitably. It will eventually bear the apples. But it is as a result of knowing it is an apple tree. It is being an apple tree. That is all it knows. So that's the crazy part is like in nature, it still follows the same rules. But nature, in this sense, doesn't have the consciousness to contemplate that. So when a tree is growing, it's not sitting around being like, hold on, am I a pear tree? Or wait a minute, if I don't grow apples, what happens? If I don't, like, that is consciousness. You have to realize that is you. That is the battle that you're going through. Is like there is no apple tree. There is no thing in nature that's fighting because it can't, because it doesn't have the consciousness to do so. It is just being what it is. So again, to jump to how funny that analogy is of like an apple tree stressing, like that is you. An apple tree is not, oh my gosh, am I a pear tree? Is it possible that, wait, maybe I'm not a tree at all. Maybe I'm X, maybe I'm Y. And that can't happen because it is just being what it is. It can't question and debate itself on what it is. But that is where it gets trippy, is you can debate yourself on it. You can think, wait, you will have it, right? You will be what you want to be. I am the person who made the $100,000. I'm telling my parents, it feels amazing. I'm at the restaurant, I'm buying the dinner, all this. You're being that. And then immediately what you'll say is, hold on, wait, I didn't make six figures. I didn't make $100,000. Where's the money? Where is the money? Where's this? Where's the sign? Where's the this? Where's that? And in that moment, you are not being it. I really hope that sinks in for you. I really hope that sinks in. Because in a second, in a moment, you will have what you want. You will experience the joy of the car, the joy of the house, the joy of the money, the love, the fulfillment, the whatever. You will have it for a second, and it will feel amazing. But the moment that you then become this tree it's just being an apple tree, but then all of a sudden the apple tree can be like, hold on, I might not be it. I'm not it because I don't see apples, because I don't this. That is where consciousness becomes your enemy. Is because the very awareness that you have that can make you anything you want can also make you what you don't want. Or it's what you do want in a sense, because you are what you are. Like, it makes sense that that's a law. You can't not get what you are. Like, an apple tree can't not bear apples because it is an apple tree. So like it just has to happen that way. And in the same way, bearing the fruit is the inevitable endpoint. So if I say like, I want $100,000, I want to make, I want to take my parents out, I want to feel this good feeling, me and my brother are both telling them, it's like an emotional moment, all this, you have to understand that is getting it in the real world. That is the bearing the fruit of the apple tree. But until you are it, you cannot get it. I really hope that is making sense. Until you will never bear the fruit. I will never be able to tell my parents that me and my brother made six figures and I'm dropping out of school and all this. I will never be able to get that if I am always wondering if I will bear the fruit, or if it is working, or if I'm a pear tree or another type of tree, or I'm worrying where is it, where is this, where is that. If I'm doing all that, I'm no longer being it. So how could I bear the apples? How can an apple tree bear pears? It can't. It absolutely can't. But you're doing that. You are an apple tree for a second in time. And you feel that good feeling. But then because of your awareness, you start to then question all the things, and then go figure. When you find out, damn it, I didn't get what I wanted. The world didn't work out for me, and I didn't put in the work, and because you caused it. You caused it. An apple tree can't cause itself to not be an apple tree because it doesn't have awareness. So it has to be what it is. How could it be anything else? How could an apple tree not be what it is? But the thing is, you can be something that you might not actually want to be because you're not being it. And that is where you will lose most people. And I'll end it here, and I'll definitely be making 1,000 more videos because this is crazy. Like, when you start to understand this stuff and you take pen to paper, you start talking, you realize you could talk for hours and hours and hours. It is truly crazy. Like, this is already gone. This is probably going to be a 45-minute thing. And to me, this felt like a second. This felt like 10 seconds. Like, if you really put me in a room, I could probably film a 24-hour video. Like, I'm not kidding. And that sounds ridiculous. Like, these are only things you do. Like, I have filmed things in my life where I've been watching the clock, where I've been like, oh my God, I have to film this for 10 minutes and this is just taking forever. And I'm like, it's things like this where you lose perception of time and you genuinely just like, the fact that it's been 45 minutes, like, I don't even care. Like, of course I could be like, oh, I could have done X, Y, Z in 45 minutes. I could have done this. But like, I don't even care because I think everything that I said was valuable and I hope it is valuable to you. So if I want you to take away one thing, I really want you to take away a lot of things from this, but the logical man, and trust me, we are all logical and we should be, right? And I was like this too. Like this, if this sounds crazy to you, it's because the logical mind is saying this is crazy. And I understand. I have the same part of my brain saying the same thing. Like, you have to understand we are the same being. We're the same consciousness. Like, it's the exact same mental dialogue. I am just maybe like further ahead. And I don't mean that in like an ego way. I mean that like I have gone down this path in a sense of like, it's been maybe 8-9 days now of me like contemplating this stuff and I'm starting to understand. So if you take away anything from this, it is that when someone says that God is in you and that means God is your imagination because God can do anything, that might make sense. You might say, okay, like I actually do understand that. God is in me. God is my imagination because that is the place where you can do anything and there's no limits. And even when I say fly in my imagination, there's no restrictions. There's no laws of physics or anything or any of that, right? So I can feel the money, I can feel the joy, I can feel everything I want in my mind. You might follow that. You might track, and it might be like something might click for you. But where most people might never go further, because the moment that they continue to go down this path, they're like, okay, that makes sense. But then someone will say to them, okay, now get what you want. Have it. Feel the end result. Don't think about yourself working a job for 7 years and then buying the car. Just think in your mind about having the car because you can have it right now, right? And you'll think about it and you'll think, okay, have the car. And you might actually have a moment of pure bliss, of pure joy. And you might be like, oh my gosh, like this feels amazing. This feels so good. And then you will open your eyes or you will get quote unquote out of the state. And then you will say, but I don't actually have it. I literally don't have it. In saying that very thing, you will never get the car. You will never bear the fruit. Because the fruit is a result of being the thing. An apple tree bears apples because it is being an apple tree. I really hope that doesn't sound insane and it makes sense. It bears the fruit because it is what it is. So that is what a lot of people are doing. They are trying to do this whole process so that they can get what they want. They're trying to say, I am going to cause myself to get a car by believing I have it. But you cannot get what you aren't. You cannot get what you aren't, right? So you can do this whole thing because, like I said, there might be people who completely doubt in general, and then there might be the person who's like, oh, this is awesome, dude. I'm going to get everything I ever wanted. And then you're trying to spawn things in. You're trying to spawn in the car, spawn in the house, spawn in the X, spawn in the Y, spawn in the Z. But in doing so, you are trying to cause it. Being, this is what Micah said, and he really stressed it, being is the cause. Everything that comes after is an effect. So you will inevitably, like an apple tree, bear the fruit. You have to because you are an apple tree. Of course an apple tree is going to bear apples. But it's funny because when I say that, it sounds so obvious, right? Of course an apple tree is going to bear apples. But that's the mindset you need to apply to yourself. Of course I'm going to get a car because I'm the person who has it. I have the car. Like being is the cause. Everything else is an effect. So stop trying to use this and be like, oh my gosh, I'm just going to spawn in like magic. Boom, I got a car. Boom, I got a house. And you're trying to like law of attraction this thing. It's not like that. Being is the cause. Everything else is an effect. Until inevitably you do bear the fruit because you have to. An apple tree will not bear pears. An apple tree will not bear apples because it is being an apple tree. And in the same way, you will inevitably get what you are. I really hope that makes sense. I could repeat myself 60 more times. I could take this into a 60-hour lecture or something, but I'll end it here. And I totally understand now. I listen to a lot of Edward Art. And I totally understand now why he makes a ton of videos. Because at first I was like, wait a minute, what if I just wrote all this stuff down? And then one day I just sat down and cranked a super long video. And I'm like, I think I would rather watch a long playlist of short, concise videos than watch a 120-hour lecture. I'm sure they could be compiled, and that's the cool part of like you can literally just put a bunch of 40-minute videos in to make a long video. But I'm starting to understand that, and you realize more and more each day. So when you go down this path, when you're journaling, when you're voice recording, when you're doing whatever, it's just like you're just constantly realizing, oh, that's what that means. That's what that means. But it's only when you really start to go down this path. Because again, I had someone talk to me about this stuff 1 year ago. And where he is now, I actually just hit him up. And I actually didn't think he'd even get back to me because I genuinely don't know where he is in terms of like mentality, in terms of like literally, I mean, I know where he like lives. I know the state he lives in, but I'm not around there. So I hit him back up and he actually recently got back to me. And I don't even know why I was saying that about just like where this leads you. Oh yeah, he talked to me about this stuff 1 year ago. And in the moment, I was like feeling it. I was like, oh yeah, this makes sense. This is cool. This is cool. But genuinely, I think after that call, it just went away. It genuinely like didn't mean anything to me. And I don't mean that in an aggressive way. I just genuinely mean like clearly it didn't, because it didn't become anything. And here I am 1 year later, going down the exact path I technically could have gone down 1 year ago, but it's clearly meant to be, because it was brought up to me a year ago and it didn't even work out. And now it has sort of happened by its own accord, right? Like you could almost argue that conversation was it not being forced on me, but it was there. Like I had people around me who were going down this path, yet I still didn't have the full interest. And for some reason now my interest is entirely peaked, and I will just keep going, because it's almost like sunk cost fallacy. It's like every single day I go down this path, it gets harder to go back, right? Because every day you realize more and more and more. And you can say to yourself, oh, I'm just being crazy. Back to reality. I'll just snap back to it. And you can do that. But it gets harder and harder. And it's good. It's like sunk cost fallacy is a good thing sometimes. Sometimes it's the reason you do well, right? Like sunk cost sounds bad. You might put a ton of money and time into something and say, oh, I need to keep doing it. I need to keep doing it. Technically, that could be the reason something does well. It could also be the reason you fail, but it could also be the reason it does well, because you're also not quitting. So there's two sides to that coin. So hopefully this makes sense. If you have anything you want further clarified, let me know in the comments, because like I said, I'm at a beginning point of understanding. So you could be super far ahead of me. You could not be understanding any of this. And yeah, it's just like this it inevitably stemmed from, there is more to life than we give credit for. Like it's so weird. And again, I have to stop talking, but no, it's fine. But you know, everyone knows there's more to life than school and a 9 to 5 and all this. And like, yeah, like of course enjoy it. But most people know there's something deeper and something that we can realize, because a lot of people think it's outside of them. A lot of people think like, oh, you know what? I'm just going to die one day and then I'll know. And it's like, yeah, but the cool part is you can become lucid in the dream. You don't actually have to like wake up from the dream and then be like, oh, now I get it. It was a dream. It was this. No, like the cool part is you can like actually do something while you're in the dream. You can become lucid. So again, hopefully that makes sense. I really have to just outro it. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments. And with that being said, I will catch you in the next, I guess I'll call it lecture. I like calling them lectures for some reason, but I don't know if that's an unattractive name. But either way, I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.